if you want to learn about acrylic infill, if you want to learn about blooming gel, aura nails, I've got it all in this video for you. So grab a brew, take a seat, and let's get started. So we've got an infill with a gel polish design. So I'm using a 2x coarse bit. This one is from Katie Barnes, and I am basically just filing off that design. I don't need to take a great deal of the bulk off because we're infilling, but I just want to kind of smooth out that back section just to make sure I really blend it in and also get any lifting off, which I'm doing here. You'll notice in a moment I think a little bit flicks off, and if you just file in front of the lifting, it should all ping off no problem. So once I've done all that, I'll go on to the next nail. I'll leave you to watch this and I'll come back in a moment to talk you through the rest of it. And if you are enjoying this, please do like and follow for more. It really helps push the videos out, and obviously it means that you won't miss any of my videos coming in the future. And I am hoping to do a lot more videos like this in the future, particularly the long form content. See here, the client had a little bit of lifting on the side of her nail. So if you'll notice, I'm very gently, I'm not pressing at all. I am literally just going over the top of that just to kind of break down any lifting, and it should literally just pop off. The minute it comes off, stop filing. Also, I'm reducing the length with my e-file as well, just by basically using it in forward motion and just shortening that nail there. Here I'm just using the e-file bit just to thin out the end of that nail. We do not need any bulk at the end of the nail. The thinner the better, and the better shape that you're going to get. So we're going to start on our prep. What I want you to do is just use a little bit of talc-free talcum powder, which always causes a storm. It's basically, I mean, I believe talc is actually an inactive ingredient, certainly in the UK, but I always try and look for talc-free talc. If you go to my link tree, which is in the bio, I've got my Amazon storefront now, I've got the one in there, but I think if you just Google soft and gentle, you should find it. But basically I put it in this little dispenser and I just puff it onto the nails, and it just dries dries that cuticle out just a touch more, and also it makes it so much easier to clean the nail plate. I haven't long been doing this particular technique and I really, really like it. So also with this one, it was a soak off because she had a couple of breaks. So I basically just soaked it with using the Honer soak off pads, which I don't never used before. I really like them actually. It made life so much easier. And then I just give that a nice file to smooth it out so it's ready for some gel polish. For acrylic, sorry. So I'm also crisping up the edges of any of the square nails that I've just reduced, but also I'm taking down the length of the natural nails. I just find that when you're applying a tip, you want as little natural nail as possible. It adheres better, and you're much less likely to get any lifting. Then I go in with a cuticle bit. Now this one is from Honer, I believe. It's an etching tool. Now you can use it either with or without the etching pad. So what I've got here is I'm literally just using it without the etching pad to lift up that cuticle. It's so hard to see from this angle, but I'm not pushing it back so much, just trying to kind of slide the cuticle part bit underneath the cuticle and lift it up a little bit so I can get my e-file bit in there just to make it nice and clean. Next, in reverse, I think it is. In reverse, no, in forward motion, I beg your pardon. I go down the left hand side of the nail, and then I go in reverse on the right hand side of the nail. And that just means that I can really, really get into that cuticle just to make sure that nail plate is totally clean. The other benefit of the talc is the fact that it means that the e-file bit moves more smoothly and is much less likely to get clogged. Like I said, I kind of wasn't sure initially whether it was just a bit of a gimmick, I suppose, but actually well worth it. I'd definitely invest. Next, I go in with my cuticle scissors. These ones are from Katie Barnes, and I use them on everybody. I think they are so much easier than nippers. They're really gentle, they're very fine, and they're super sharp. They also, I think, offer a sharpening service, or certainly a guarantee. So they are probably a little bit more on the pricey side, but A, they're fantastic, and B, they always have sales on, so stick them in your basket. I would definitely recommend them. Now I'm using a silicone bit just to make sure that's all cleaned off and I've got rid of all of the extra bits. I'm still kind of working on this section. This particular silicone bit is probably a little bit too smooth, so I go in a moment with a sanding band just to very gently etch the nail plate. The most important thing with a set like this and with acrylic is to make sure that nail plate is just slightly etched, because it means that the acrylic has something to grab onto. Now we need to replace the nails that obviously that she lost. So basically I am using the tips from Nails by Ashley. I really like these tips. They adhere really quickly, and they are super easy to shape. They don't really need much blending because they're so thin, and I really like the well on them, but really recommend them. Then I go in and I just trim them obviously to shape. I tend to go a little bit longer at first. I try and be a little bit more on the generous side when I'm trimming, just because I find that it means that I have a little bit more playroom to work with. So I would say err on the side of caution if you're not confident with trimming them. Now I'm just doing a little bit of finish filing on those tips. I like to do that at this point because it's so much easier than when the acrylic's actually on the nail. So next I go in with the dehydrator. Now this one's just one from Bexy Glow. It's a really good dehydrator, but I like applying it like this because I feel that it really gets in there. So I think once I'm finished with this, I'll either get another one of hers or I will just put some of my, my dehydrator mix, which is alcohol and acetone, in that bottle because I really like the way it applies. Then I'll go in with 2 coats, not one, but 2 coats of Young Nails primer. I managed to get a large one from Amazon in the UK and it is fantastic. It's just, I love Young Nails Protein Bond. It's on the pricier side, but it's well worth investing in and it lasts for ages. Make sure you're only putting it on the natural nail. You don't really need it on any enhancements, but I'm a bit obsessed with it, so I tend to try and put it everywhere. Also, make sure you're not flooding the nail. If it goes too much into the cuticle, it can cause lifting as well. So just, use it sparingly on your on the brush, and you can probably go in with another pass if you need to. Then after a few seconds, once it looks sticky, as it were, you need to go in with your acrylic. So I use a tiny bead. I think this one was a little bit larger than I intended, but I've just worked with it anyway. And I put that at the cuticle, and I'll just literally hold the nail down and blend it down. When it comes to an acrylic infill, usually you might want to work a little bit on the drier side, not too dry, because you want to make sure that there's still some monomer in the bead to really help with that adhesion, but you don't want it flooding the cuticle. So obviously you're picking up a relatively small bead. You see here that's pretty tiny. It doesn't need a lot at all. This is about 3 weeks of growth. In fact, she'd gone a little bit over, which is why 2 were broken. She's got a very hands-on job, so you do find sometimes with this particular client, the nails themselves seem to stay, but she's more likely to break them. So what I do then is I just reinforce any side walls that I need to, and I'm just really making sure that shape is nice and crisp. I'm trying to do as much with my brush as possible, so I can do less with my file. Now, because of the size of the nail and the size of my brush, I'm doing a 2 bead method. This is basically, I'll put a bead probably about halfway, 2/3 of the way up the nail. I will blend that down towards the tip using the belly of the brush. I'll snip any extra off at the end. And then once I've done that, I'm going to go in and put another bead at the cuticle area. You'll see that in a moment. And then apparently I faff about for ages with my brush trying to get that shape perfect. I just like to. It's kind of part of my process. I really like to make sure that's nice and flush. I mean, to be honest, that probably would be sorted out with the e-file, but it does make my filing a little bit easier at the end. And I do struggle sometimes with my shoulders because the filing could be quite challenging. Then I go with a good sized bead, probably small to medium bead at the cuticle. Again, tuck it in at the cuticle first, then blend it over. And if you're leaving it for a few seconds, you shouldn't lose that apex. I think what happens is people put it on quite wet and then they brush it straight away. You need to allow a few seconds of polymerization for the brush to really kind of get the bead to get really like a little bit more solid. You don't want it too solid that you can't blend, but that's kind of perfect there. So this is where the client had caught the side of her natural nail. So I needed just to go and kind of rebuild that structure. Next we have our filing routine, so I'm really glad I managed to catch all of this, and actually the angle's quite good so you can see what I'm doing. So first off I go in with a smooth or fine safety top carbide bit. This one is from, I think it was from Novelli Nails on TikTok. So I've actually left some of the hand filing in here. So what I want to do is I want to do my free edge first. You do the free edge and you just make sure that's nice and crisp. Then I bevel down the side of the left hand side of the nail, and then I go down the right hand side of the nail, that's starting from the cuticle on a smaller nail, and then I'll bevel over the top. So again on this nail I do the free edge, then I do the right hand side of the nail. Again, I'm starting at the cuticle, so I don't need to blend that in anymore. And then I'm going down the left hand side of the nail and then beveling over the top. These really didn't need a lot of filing at this particular point, which I was really pleased about because I hate hand filing, but I really struggle not to hand file at the end of it. I miss it. I miss not hand filing if I don't do it, or it just doesn't feel like it's properly finished if I don't do it. Now, this is the bit I really do think makes all the difference. I will turn the nail, whether it's a thumbnail, fingernail, whatever, round to kind of face the client almost. So you'll see how I'm doing there. So it's almost like I've got it tipped up at the angle that the client would be looking at. I hope that makes sense. But basically then I'll file the top at a 90-degree angle. It really helps getting that crisp edge in. And you can also file the sides as well. You might do, I think I do that on this set, I can't remember. But you'll see, you can genuinely see a difference when you've done that. It's so much crisper. Oh, and make sure you cleanse like a demon. I always use a solution of acetone, which is probably about 1/3, maybe slightly less of acetone, and the rest alcohol. And I just find that it cleanses and dehydrates both really well, so I only need to take one solution with me. And the reason I say cleanse really well is because if you have even the tiniest little bit of dust on there, it will show up like it's got a flag on it. I'm also going underneath these nails, just because they are our natural nails, and just kind of filing away some of our natural nail, just because it can really help with lifting. Some clients might not want this, they might be happy with their nails, but my client's quite happy for me to get rid of as much of the natural nail as possible. And obviously it's quicker than a full set. Next, I'm using the Flat as a Pancake brush from Honer. No, from CJP. And I'm using the black gel paint from Honer. Now, the lovely thing about this particular gel paint is it's super pigmented, but you can work really, really thin. So what I'm doing is I'm just going in with a thinner coat first. I saw this hack somewhere. I wish I could remember because it's absolutely brilliant. But I went in with a really thin coat first and really blended that out over the nail. And then it means the second coat I go in with doesn't need to be thick at all because it's so pigmented and it doesn't add any bulk to the nail. My client commented on how much thinner her nails felt using this particular gel product. She said other gels she's had in the past can feel quite bulky, but actually this seems to work really well. And also it didn't really add anything to the shape, if that makes sense. So I was able to keep the kind of crisp shape. So we've got one coat there, and then once I've cured that, I'll go in with a second coat in a moment. So first the blooming gel crock print. So you want to do a thin layer of the blooming gel, and then just using a dotting tool, you're going to draw lines down the centre, you'll see in a moment, and then dots on either side of the lines. I am at a slight angle to the client, so when I've looked at this afterwards, I've noticed that it's ever so slightly off, so that's something I'll be aware of in the future. So you can see there it's slightly more to the left, but again that's because of where I'm sitting, and it's something that I will check and be a bit more careful about in the future. However, I did want to leave it in because we're all human, and while it wasn't perfect, it looked so beautiful. I needed you to see it. So here I'm doing a blooming gel rose. I love this effect. It's so easy, it's so effective. It can work for summer, spring, winter. Brilliant at Halloween if you're doing the black and red ones. Absolutely spot on. So you're basically just going to do like a croissant shape, round the other ones in the blooming gel again. Let it bloom for a few seconds, and once it's looking good, pop it in the lamp. So on the thumb we did a hibiscus flower, which I absolutely love. So we did that in a blooming gel. So I did the blooming gel again, very thin layer, don't cure it. And then I go in with 5 dots with my dotting tool. And then I literally just drag the brush through it. It's so easy, you'll see it in a moment. But honestly, again, it works in white, red, spring, neutral, neon, whatever you want. Once that's cured, I go in with my airbrush. Now the airbrush, I'm actually using acrylic paint. I'm not using gel polish and any kind of thinner. It's dangerous, and I will not do that. I would much rather just use the acrylic that it's intended for. Then once you've done all that, you'll top coat, and I'm using the 20 Pro top coat here, which I'm absolutely in love with at the minute. Stays shiny, beautiful and slim, so it doesn't affect the shape. And all in all, it's just gorgeous. But yeah, give that a cure, and then you're done. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day. Bye now.